Okay, we're ready to do the second half of the My Perspective demo for perspective and filters. So let's get cracking. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to draw a horizon line in our background. So let's create a new layer. Name this Horizon. We'll come back to that. We're actually going to be using the line tool, so it will automatically create a new layer, but we'll merge things down in just a bit. I'm going to go up and grab a guide and drag it down to about there. That's going to be the horizon. Now, get your line tool, and let's make this guy, I'm going to make him black. I hit the D key, the default key. Click, depress Shift, and drag to the other side of your screen. There we go, good. Now I'm thinking that this box is going to be too big for what we need to do. So I'm going to select the box with art layer and the box highlights layer, and then I'm going to transform those with Command or Control T and just resize them like so. That way that box is not quite such a center of attention. I think I'm going to stick them right about there. When you're happy with the way it looks, come up and click the checkbox. And the next thing that we need to do is we're going to draw guidelines for our shadow. If you remember from the perspective demonstration, we had a vanishing point off in the distance. So we'll put a little dot there. That dot's going to be the sun. The two lines coming forth are going to be the rays of the sun, and that will help us show where we're going to need to draw our shadow. So here's going to be my first line, and I'm going to come down and just touch the corner of that box. Okay, so there's one. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm also considering where this corner is, so that guy may need a little bit more on the other side to make it look convincing. Like so. Okay, good. So let's take these two guys. I'm going to drag them on top of the horizon line. Select the horizon line and all the others. And then let's merge these layers. And we're simply going to call those guides. The nice thing about having that merged is it makes it easier to turn them on and turn them off. All right, I'm going to grab my move tool. I'm going to drag this guideline off. If you find that you can't drag it, that means that your guideline is locked, and you're going to have to go up to View and then unlock the guides. So if there's a check mark here, that means that you do have that turned on. Simply click it, and it will allow you to then unlock your guide. So I'm just going to grab this guy and remove it. Good. Now, let's fill in the background while we're here. Swatches. I'm going to use the darker of the two. Actually, let's just use them both. We're going to make it a little bit easier on ourselves. Go up to the gradient tool. Make sure that your radial gradient is again selected. And I'm going to drag, click and drag from that horizon line. And that's going to simulate that color. Sorry, I've got a couple of little dots there I need to get rid of. Hold on. There we go. So that radial gradient, that's where the sun is. So we need that to be warm and soft. So that's why I chose that radial gradient. Now, we're going to create the shadow underneath the box first. So locate your box area, then right underneath that, you're going to need to create another layer. Name that box shadow. And we're going to want to grab the polygonal lasso tool. And we're simply going to go around the corners of the box. Like so. And then follow your guidelines down. I'm just going to go a little bit further than I need to here. There. This is the area that is going to become our shadow. So what I'm going to do here is I am going to go in and get a nice gray color. Now you don't want this to be completely black, but you do want it kind of dark. Shadows in the real world usually aren't completely black. Just like highlights usually aren't completely white. So I've got this nice dark gray. We'll use that guy. I'm going to go back to where the gradient tool was and get the paint bucket tool. And I'm going to make sure that I'm on the box shadow layer. And once I'm there, I'm going to click inside that to give my fill. Now, if I turn off the guides, that's what we're left with. Now the shadow looks really, really blocky and it's way too heavy. So there's a couple things we're going to do. The first thing is we're going to go up to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. And I'm going to make that shadow pretty fuzzy. There we go. Then the second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the opacity just a bit. Until it feels kind of good. Now if you're still not happy with the color, you can always go into your layer styles by double clicking on the layer and then go down to color overlay. You would change the opacity and then click on the color swatch and then choose a different color. Okay, you know, whatever suits you. And click OK. Now, this box doesn't look like there's a light source over here. Like, it looks like it's got the light source from this direction rather than this direction. So I need to add some shadows here and some shadows here. A great way to do that is with the brush tool. We're going to use that same gray. And we're going to go to the box with art layer. And I'm going to do this as another clipping mask, just because if I make a boo-boo, it makes it really easy to undo it. So let's call this box low lights. A low light is different than a shadow in my opinion. So let's zoom in just a little bit. I hit the Z key to get my zoom tool. Here we go. All right, so now I need the brush. And you're going to want to make sure it's something nice and soft. No hardness whatsoever. Make this guy a little bigger. I'm hitting my right bracket key. And the beauty of this is that because it's on a clipping mask, I can just affect the box. And nothing else will be affected. Now this is going to look really ugly to start with. And that's okay. Because remember, the nice thing about Photoshop is that we can change that opacity when we need to. And that's definitely what I'm going to do here. Change the opacity. Let's scooch that guy down. That looks more natural to me. Much better. Much better. Now, around the bottom of the box, I'm noticing that there's a blue blue line, because the shadow isn't quite meeting up with the box. So I'm going to go back and find the box shadow, and I'm going to get the Move tool by hitting the V key, and I'm going to use my arrows to kind of get that a little bit more into position so it doesn't look like it's floating in air. That is much more convincing. Now, I'm going to zoom out, hit Command or Control minus. Now, there was a little problem with my shadow here, but I'll tell you what, and a simple cropping will fix that. So I'm going to leave you guys to do that on your own. Now, let's go and turn back on the horizon guides. So to create the illusion of a horizon, go up to your Marquee tools. You want the rectangular Marquee tool, and we're going to select the top portion of your screen. Now here's a fun tip. Whenever you make highlights and lowlights, you can get a really huge brush, and for example, for a highlight, get a huge brush, make it super, super soft, and barely go around the outside edge. Let's see what that effect does. Hit the D key to set your colors to default. Hit X to flip the white color to the foreground. Get your brush, and let's get that puppy pretty big. Yeah, that looks pretty good. 300, and make sure it's just as soft as you can get. Now, I'm going to go around the bottom of this guy, just like this. You see how it's just barely giving me a little bit of color? That's exactly what you want. Yeah, that's pretty nice. Now, let's invert this. Go up to Select, Inverse. Now we're going to do the opposite. So, hit the X to flip your colors. Let's do it right about there. That's really nice. Now I'm going to deselect by hitting Command or Control D. Let's turn off those guides. You see the effect of the horizon in the background? Isn't that nice? Now normally I should have put those on a separate layer, but I got to talking so fast I forgot and I put it on the box shadow layer. But you don't make the same mistake I did. So there it is. That's your horizon line. The next thing that we need to do is to create a space for the sun to be slid down in between those two. Go back up to your Marquee, get your rectangular Marquee, and let's draw out so that we can select out the top half. All right. Now I'm going to do a little housekeeping here. I'm going to move these guides above the box shadow, and I'm actually going to merge down the box shadow layer so that this background all becomes one thing. Now, I'm going to cut the top part of that background. I'm going to hit Command or Control X, depending on your machine. I'm going to get a new layer. We're going to call this Upper Horizon. Now we're going to paste this in a special way. Go up to Edit, Paste Special, Paste in Place, because you don't want it to drift at all from where the original was. Paste in place. Good. Now you can see that we have a perfect positioning of that element. Now for background, let's change this to lower horizon to more accurately reflect what we've got going on here now. Good. The last thing we need to do is to create a layer between the upper horizon and the lower horizon. This is going to be your sun. So type in sun. I'm even going to turn off those two guys for just a minute. Grab your original swatches again, the dark color and the light color. We're going to make another radial gradient. And you're going to need to go from the center of your screen. And let's go down, like so. And then, excuse me, we're going to go to Filter, Distort, Wave. Change the number of generators to 60. Change the wavelengths to 82 and 83 for the max. I'm going to have to back up for just a second. We've got the wrong gradient. Go to the linear gradient. Let's try that one more time. From the top of your screen down to the bottom of your screen. Sorry about that, folks. That's what happens sometimes. Now let's go to Filter, Distort, Wave. Okay, back up to 60 waves, 82 minimum wavelength, 83 maximum. And make sure you choose square for the type. And it's going to give us this lovely, lovely striped pattern. Click OK. Now that's a cool pattern. You're going to see this pattern itself a lot on the web. So if you need to stop just there sometime and use this, by all means do. So we're going to take it that one extra step and turn it into a sunburst. Go up to Filter. And then we're going to go to Distort, and then to Polar Coordinates. This is the final radial that we're looking for. Click OK. That's nice. Now, I'm seeing that this particular ray is a little thicker than what I was hoping for. I like the ones down at the bottom better. So I'm actually going to flip this whole thing around. Go up to Image, Rotation, 180. Oops. Give me just a second. I'm going to leave it like it is for now. I'll find out in a different movie how to flip that. It's been a while. Okay, get your move tool. Hit the V key. Turn on the upper horizon. Turn on the lower horizon. Going to drag the sun just above the upper and drag the lower horizon above the sun. There we go. So you've got your V key. Oops. Now all you have to do is get the sun layer and drag it over there. I'm going to turn my guides back on to make sure I'm in the right spot. That's not too shabby for a good guess. There. So the center of the point meets the center of the radial. Now, get your elliptical marquee tool. And I want you to hold down the Alt key and drag out a little bit here. Because this is what is going to get rid of some of the outside. I want you to go into Refine Edge, and we want this to be nice and soft. So come out to Feather, that looks pretty good right there. So that's 60.8 pixels. Click OK. Go up to Select, Inverse. Now hit the Delete key. You see what a nice soft effect that made for your sun? The final touch is to put a small dot here in the middle. So get the brush tool by hitting the letter B. We want that dot to be dark, so I'm going to get my dark swatch. And let's just make this a little smaller here, huh? I'm going to click one time. Maybe just a little more there. That's nice. If you choose, you can always make that a different hardness. So if you want a little more chiseled of a look. There you go. Let's turn off the guides. And there you have it. That's the finished effect for the Perspective and Filters demo. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will be looking forward to working with you in the next video.